Good afternoon, my students. This is me, د.هاني الحسني. I'm going to explain the first lesson in our for sure course that will enhance your ability of understanding the novel. So the course of novel will be quite harder if you couldn't continue with me, but I'm sure you will find it a little bit interesting. Because why we have to discuss something of historical point of views, but the beginning of it we will start from the title here, novel history types and elements. So that's the first slide, which is introduction number 1 here, Isra University. So we have history, we have types, and we have elements. Let's have a look on it. The first thing, the origins of novel. Novel as a literary genre enjoyed the highest level of glory in the 18th century. So if we talk about novel, we have to be sure that it started since 18th century. The well-known authors who represent it, Defoe, Daniel Defoe, Richardson, Fielding, and Sterne, contributed significantly to the development of English novel. They influenced the writers who came after them. 18th century coincided with the Industrial Revolution. So if we talk about Industrial Revolution, it means the novel enhancement that happened during it and after the Industrial Revolution. Why? Because it's the invention of printing machine. When you print your work, it means your work can be reached all over the world, and this is the point how you can enhance or increase the level of people who can write and who can read as well. The change affects industrial evolution, improve people life and living standard. The rise of educated middle class people further increased. So we have here some issues like Don Kohiski, Decameron, Moti, the author, and Pilgrim's Progress. So those are the work. It started for novels and it laid to the foundation of development of novella, because when they started with this kind of novels, later on the enhancement comes up. Pamela, Joseph Andrews, Tristram Shandy, Robinson Crusoe were some of the notable books that become famous in the 18th century. So if you look at 18th century, you will find these are the most well-known work, especially when you want to read a novel. Tristram Shandy has a lot of discussions, a lot of people who think about the style. Robinson Crusoe by Daniel Defoe as well. You can check it out if you have time. However, novels continue to evolve in the 19th and 20th century, giving rise different genres or genre or classes of novel. So here it's origins of novel with quite synopsis. Antecedents of novel, we have Geoffrey Chaucer use both verse as well prose in the Canterbury Tales. So you have to remind yourself and remember this name, Geoffrey Chaucer and Canterbury Tales. So that's the point that I need you to remember. Number 2, Boccaccio produced prose tales of amorous adventure, the Decameron. This is another name who what? Chaucer was influenced by Boccaccio's style storytelling. Why? Because he was from Italy. If you want to check out somehow the history, they say that Italy is considered as a home of the novel. John Bunyan, who published Pilgrim's Progress, also has a model of storytelling. This is the antecedents. This is before the 18th century. So you have to memorize the names. Geoffrey Chaucer, you have to remember Boccaccio's, and John Bunyan by his work Pilgrim's Progress. Next, definition and origin of novel. we have here the definition according to shorter Oxford Dictionary. Novel is a fictitious prose narrative of considerable length in which characters and actions representative of real life are portrayed in a plot of more or less complexity. So this is based on Oxford Dictionary. Another definition, a piece of prose fiction of a reasonable length. It means a length is kind of something very necessary. You cannot read a novel and call it a novel without finding it quite longer, like 500 pages to 1000 pages. It depends. So with the rise and the development of novels in the 18th century, the meaning of the word novel underwent change from short tale in prose to prose narrative of considerable length, stated in shorter Oxford Dictionary. Next, we have here factors that influence the rise of novel. Why people care about novel? First, we could find the Industrial Revolution that happened in the mid of 18th century, decline of romance and drama, people trying to avoid the romantic century, which is in 17th century, because it's all about poetry and describing the nature, and also they avoid being into theater. The way of their lifestyle changed, the standard of life changed, so there is no much need for theater to watch or to be audience into a drama. They can the people can read a lot of novels and imagine the characters and the scenarios only from papers. So the printing machine that comes by Industrial Revolution make people quite different. Rise of the middle class. So before 18th century there is no middle class, it's just kind of king and he has his own servants, but within the Industrial Revolution middle class comes up. They work hard and they need to survive, and here the point of novel, a lot of writers want to enhance the living life for their people style, the standards. They are talking about the problems that followed the Industrial Revolution. And finally we have mobile libraries. So mobile libraries is what? I just give little point of view about it. Mobile libraries facilitated the increase of reading public. Reading was promoted by providing easy access to books, with books being brought to the homes if people join the mobile library as members. So here you can realize from the words that those who make it significant, I think, or it's quite sure women, because women, they are in homes and they have to do something or beside taking care of kids or a house, they have to do something. So they find out that replacing books or just exchanging books with other women or neighbors could be working with mobile libraries. Mobile is not like mobile at the moment, but mobile means it can be transferable or transitional. Books can be here today and after 2 days it can be in another city. This is the way how they deal with that at that moment, and that was really work. Key features of 18th century. So there is some issues happen during the 18th century. The writers of 18th century brought out realism, or why they don't care about it, because they have to think about or they think about realism in such a way, like where instruments to explore represent reality of society. So brought out realism means they discuss some issues related to poverty or people who are lying, thinking about morals of society. They think about how to deal with problems such as women abusement, sexual harassment, some issues like why a lot of people can be so poor within the industrial revolution. This is the way how they think about it. Number 3 here we have authors use verisimilitude with books imitating the real life of the people. The use of first-person narrative technique created the element of realism. So sometimes the narrating style, we know that it falls somehow first-person narrator or third-person narrator, but some of them they create or they imagine characters only first-person narrator, and that's the reality of 18th century. Further, unlike romances, characters in the novels were ordinary men and women with settings familiar to readers. It means the reader can imagine them clearly without thinking about maybe unknown creature or someone from another planet, so they can think about it whether it's men or women. In addition, the focus of protagonists was given on middle class people, so they don't give a protagonist, which is a hero, a chance to be a king or to be a queen. They just look at middle class people who are hardworking or who trying to survive somehow, and this is thinking like sometimes they are looking for religious people who work in the church, or another like who are in education teaching kids. So that's the middle class. The purpose of the novel was mainly to promote virtuous character in people, so they try to make people better in their own way of dealing. They try to tell people be nice, be kind, and change your way of thinking. Don't be greedy or a liar. That's the way for the virtuous character. Number 7 here, for the post 18th century novels, we can understand that after 18th century there is a lot of changes also as well in the way of giving the ideas. And here we have in the 19th century, which came to be to be known of age of romantic poets to return to the nature. It means like there is connection between 19th century and 17th century. The romantic poets generated the idea of nature as a source of inspiration, beside being a teacher, guide, and mother, unlike 18th century poets who treated nature as normal reality. It was marked by love of nature, love of medieval age. And here with 18th century writers place value on realism and rationality. The romantic writers stress their value on imaginations and emotions. The setting and themes of medieval romances were once again picked by 19th century writers, such as Castle of Otranto was the first novel to have made use of the elements of ghost. So we want to understand the ghost here is something from imagination. Due to change of ideology, different genres or classes of novel got developed in the 19th and 20th century. Let's move to the types of novels of post 18th century. That's a topic you can have a look on it and try to reflect it based on so many styles of writing or topics or ideas that be implied on the novels. We have novel of manners like Pride and Prejudice by Jane Austen, historical novels like Rob Roy and Ivano. That's you can have a look on it. Historical novels like check something in history. Chronicle novels like Emma, written by Jane Austen, so you can check it out. How also Jane Eyre we have by Charlotte Bronte. Examples of chronicle novel, for they provide narrative accounts starting from their early childhood till their adulthood, so you can follow them as a bibliography. You can read them from their childhood, what happened to them, whether they enjoy or become happy when they are childhood, and what happened to them when they reach age of adulthood, like 25 or 30, somehow like they are adulthood and they have another life. So this is called chronicle novels. We have Gothic novels. Gothic authors use the element of supernatural with appearance of ghosts, revealing tombs and dungeons, creating the feeling of horror. So you can feel a lot of mystery, ambiguity, and horror, like you will be terrified when you are trying to imagine every single detail in that scenes. The first Gothic novel to have been written was The Castle of Otranto, 1764, by Horace Walpole. And you can also have a look on another interesting and nice one, which is like Wuthering Heights by Emily Bronte. You can type Wuthering Heights Emily Bronte and you can find the voice of Catherine, who use that ghost, the ghost of Catherine, always hovering here and there to other characters. Regional novels, number 5. The genre of regional novel is associated with the Victorian writer Thomas Hardy. So it's like kind of pioneering way of writing, how Thomas Hardy used his own way of thinking and style. In regional novel, recognize one area which called Wessex, and later it's called Wessex novels because it's like series of novels. It followed one place. Number 6 is stream of consciousness novels. Consciousness novels, here you can understand that James Joyce and Virginia Woolf are two important authors who made use of a stream of consciousness narrative technique in the novel. They believe that the reality is presented through showing than telling, and it means they have to show the feelings than just tell it or say it to audience. That's the two names, James Joyce and Virginia Woolf. Be careful about memorizing all this information because you will have maybe a discussion later on. Number 9, here we have essential elements of a novel. If you want to read a novel, you have to think about 5 elements. What are the 5 main elements? Here we have character, plot, setting, point of view, and number 5, dialogue. So if you want to start about characters, usually when you read any kind of literary work, you will understand that there is minor and major characters. Sometimes we will find like we have 3 or 2 major characters, and maybe like we have one character that is the hero. And when we talk about hero, it's like protagonist. We have here one word that called the protagonist. And when we need to understand, is there anyone facing that protagonist? If there is like someone only make or creating troubles to that protagonist, which we have to call him antagonist. It's always an evil side. So this is like kind of good side, and here evil side. And we are waiting for all the actions to make sure that the protagonist will win at the end. Examples here or characters are imaginary people you write about in your fiction or drama. Examples of fictional characters: King Lear, Oliver Twist, Cinderella, and many others or other characters. A lot of characters you can read about: Smith, maybe Othello. You have like Hamlet. Those characters you can find them, but in reality it's not existed. Sometimes like you just use these names and you create the names for them. A plot is what happens to or in a work fiction to be worth reading. Something has to happen by the end, so you are trying to trace the chapters one by one to understand what will happen. You have to take the reader to a form or to make it like from point A to point B. That's how could be a roadmap. The roadmap here, the readers can understand what will or can be anticipated. Is it the next stage will be killing somebody, or it will be solving a problem, or they will marry, they will find the trouble? That's how you will try to draw your own roadmap. Number 3, we have here sitting. And sitting, if you want to talk about sitting, sometime we have to memorize. We are talking about the place, or where is it, the place of that novel, and when it happened. Sometimes we just mention the place, but others we have to understand that sitting included the place and timing. We have also to realize what time that story happened, or to what extent this story can be like in the past, in the present, or just sci-fi or imagination adventure for the future. Maybe someone in the future will try to do it somehow. So here a kind of room, prison, castle, battlefield, or maybe kind of a hospital. All these settings can be a place for writing or saying a kind of novel. Number 4, point of view. Narrative point of view is the perspective from which you tell a work of fiction. Narrator can be either first person narrator, this is the first type, tells a story using the words I and me. So when you read any novel and you find I and me, so you will put in your mind that the point of view here for style of writing is following the first person narrator. If you find a lot of I and me, as if she were actually there. Third person narrator tells the story from the outside and doesn't use the word I and me. Describe the story's events because he or she isn't a participant. So it's very, very important to every reader to understand the point of view and to decide whether the point of view is following the first person narrator. It means the narrator of the writer of the novel showed his voice, or he preferred or she preferred to use third person narrator through third party. Number 5, we have here dialogue. Dialogue is your characters a conversation presented directly on the page. Dialogue tags are phrases such as he said. So if there is a conversation between 2 or 3 speakers, you can recognize how it changed from one speaker to another, and you can imagine how many characters they are talking about. Like imagine me and you as a student who are talking in the class, and we finish the class, and later on you realize that one student was absent, and you have to inform him what happened during that class. You will use he said, the teacher said, the doctor said. That's the dialogue. You make it and present it when you want to explain the point of dialogue. So remember, character, plot, setting, point of view, dialogue. You have always understand all of these issues. Make sure next time if you want to talk about the literary theories, you already memorize all of these slides, because I will ask you in Zoom class what's the point, or what's your opinion, do you have any question, and I wish you the best, and I hope that you will have a great weekend with your families and friends. Thank you for listening to me, and I wish to meet you very soon within the class. Thank you very much.